Chapter 6. I saw Goldilocks stab somebody once, said Squeegee. We were standing in line outside the Mad Hatter when this big baby Huey kid with a Yankees cap rolled up and cut right in front of us. I mean, it was enough to bring us out of our sick selves for just a minute there. Almost enough to make us forget who was underneath the cap and what he'd just done to us all. Something that would get you killed right quick in the jailhouse. Now, Goldie was minding the store that day, and he stepped to the kid and he spat something nasty in Spanish. It didn't go over well. The need for dope is its own kind of terrible, swift sword. The kid just stood there in all that virulent sunlight, squinting down through Goldilocks like he wasn't even there. So Goldie stuck him good. And the blade hit the kid's rib, and it made this special chunk sound. Chunk! We all stood there, sniffling in our own private little hells. Chunk! Waiting for this big tree to fall. Chunk! The air all crackling with some kind of awful electricity. And then the kid spun around on his heels and slunk to the back of the line. Blood trailed him into the dope house. Junebug looks all Bergen-Belsen under his hoodie. When he shares, his mouth moves, but the words don't always go along with it. Had me a crew back then, says Junie. I put them up against anybody out there, and I did too. I lost a few lookouts now and again to other houses, to the 9th, to a stray round coming out of nowhere. It's hard to keep good people, you know. The good ones move up or move out, or they move on you. The good ones want to become you. It was all good until I started tasting that product just to make sure. I put a straw in a bag one day, and there was no more me on the other end. There was only the straw and this sucking sound. Then I started slamming. Then I started sharing. And then you know how this ends. Look at me, pendejos. I mean, I'm talking to you now, but I'm already gone. The air tasted evil that day, and it stuck in our throats like a sob or a bad confession, said Spike. So Cheat pulls a box cutter out of his Doc Marten, and he goes to town on these invisible space bugs under the peeled skin of his forearm, right? I mean, his flesh looked just like the back of that little napalm girl running down the dirt road. Hey, Chester, I said to Cheat, you know, using the name his mother calls him. That arm's all done on that side. Why don't you switch hit like they do in baseball, you know? Why don't you give that arm a rest and work on the other one, Would you do that? Could you do that for me? This life crushes you, says this newcomer Daisy. Drugs are what you do to sleepwalk through it. Every day the sky beats you down. The clouds pile up like bowling pins. I can't stand the blue in the sky when I come off dope. Why did they make it like that, pressing down over you? Everything's made out of styrofoam. My feet on the sidewalk make a funny whooshing sound, like somebody following behind me or leading me off somewhere. I jump on the 6 train and it's like a cattle car. I smell everything everyone had to eat. The air going out of us like corpse gas. People are the ugliest animals. The meanest and most vile animals. We eat each other's hearts, that's what we do. We eat each other's beating hearts. My mom jumped off the Throg's Neck Bridge. She used to go, "Daisy, Daisy, I'm half crazy. Give me your something, something true." I'll tell you this. I'll tell you dumb motherfuckers this right now. I miss that rush. I miss that sweet, sweet smell up my nostrils when I let loose the tie. That lighter fluid smell. The best thing, the only good thing about getting this clean is that high waiting for me. Waiting at home curled up in the dark for me like a brand new lover who already knows my name. Now cheat with the little black spots starts laughing, right? But it's a laugh without anything good in it. Goes Spike. She gets up and he begins goose-stepping, sort of, around and around us in a kind of tightening little noose. And when he does this, the little black spots swim around like tadpoles on his neck and chest. I mean, if it wasn't for all that day-glow carpet in Bad Linda's loft, the floor underneath his Doc Martens would crack open and send plaster hailing downstairs. 4 minutes later, he's hugging himself in a slow dance like Grace Jones. The laugh with no good in it morphs into sobbing, but it's sobbing without any tears or slobber behind it. It's sobbing made out of nothing. And then he walks over and he sits back down like he's just entering the room for the first time. He sits right back down and repeats this ritual until Bad Linda's rock is all gone. And we think we've both been burned until Goldie's speed jackhammers us in the guts, said Zero. It's all those little blonde hairs on his arms that shake us. The sun glances over them and they stand out from his skin like they've just been resurrected. There is joy in them. How can this be? Goldie is a murdering swine. He'd stab you in the neck over an M1 bus pass. How could we have missed his holiness? All the things around us come alive, too. The rain spouts sing with hosannas and conspiracies. How is it that we've never seen these blue elephants in petticoats joining trunk to tail, 97 floors above us? Somebody worked hard on those. Look how they whirl around the buildings. What else have we been denying? Our birth, our death, the fine print on all those Twinkies wrappers. We must go now and rescue them, each one, redeem them and apologize. Those blonde hairs on Goldie's arms are the strands of a violin bow, and the wind plays through them like a dog whistle. We see a large gray animal that has died horribly. The story behind it must be unspeakable. We linger over it, sobbing and recalling its life, its catalog of unselfish acts. Surely these are written down somewhere. If not, we will write them. We promise ourselves as soon as we get back to the nest, we'll write them all down so the world will know. A kid comes along and climbs on the dead animal, and we see that it is one of many placed along the path. And some of them have gang tags sprayed painted on their dead walrus backs, while others lie still, pretending to be rocks. And we begin to run through the park, through the gauntlet of dealers, through throng after throng of dope-sick fiends. It's like running through a meat locker with no refrigeration for days and days. Our mothers are hanging upside down in there with hooks through their ankles and baked apples in their mouths. There's our entire kindergarten class, strung up and bled out like deer. Nobody gets away with. Now our legs do that Wile E. Coyote thing where they windmill in a blur underneath us, but we don't move an inch. This hasn't happened yet. The sunfall on Goldie's arms. The tiny spark plugs in our amygdala have not yet put two and two together. Who should we warn? Who'd believe us? According to this myth, Jesus is on his way back here right now, and it's not what you think. He's here to rescind every syllable. He looks like Squeaky Fromm with holes in his hands. Not come to heal, but to bring us a thunder shower of frogs glazed with plague. It says right here in these Twinkies' fine print. Let's get started. Let's get started on those dumpsters. It's all written down here in these Twinkies wrappers along with all our names. Every single name. You see a lot of ugly and beautiful truths when you move between worlds, said Bam Bam. I mean, there is the sunlit sidewalk and all that goes down on it for everyone to see. And then another world bleeds through around dusk when the lights along the strip come on, and some of those men who run things in the sunlit world, some of those men duck into the peeps with their briefcases and their sad Armani. Those same men troll along the booths with 10s and 20s in their soft hands. Their voice is soft with money, ready to enter your world for 5 minutes, ready and willing to pay for you. needing it that way. To pay and pay to put their loveless mouths around you like they pay for everything in the sunlit world. But I belong to neither world. Both worlds. Many worlds. You look like you stepped out of Caravaggio, said one of my regulars. He loves being strangled with a phone cord while he jerks himself off. It's a delicate thing, choking someone to the abyss until they... It requires finesse. I looked up Caravaggio at the Strand, and I found a self-portrait of him, freshly decapitated by one of his boy models. He'd painted himself as Goliath in drag, and this cruel, defiant David boy stood there with a sword in one hand and Caravaggio's chopped off, dripping head in the other. I think I got the drift. We know it can't last, said Boney. People dropping to their knees in the playground like a dope-fiend revival meeting. Fresh-faced wannabes from 5 surrounding states and all the boroughs swarming into the side streets, fixing in their fathers' campers, drooping like sunflowers into deep nods here and there on the front stoops and park benches, in doorways and foyers, bent double in the junky Tai Chi and don't walk signs, trying and failing to drive back home. Their cars coming to rest in wide tuliped boulevards, up on sidewalks, nestled against buildings. We lose no sleep selling them talcum or meat tenderizer. These kids come down from Connecticut who grew up in warm houses with real wood-burning fireplaces. That third kind of house in the 3 Little Pigs. The one the wolf could not blow down. But now the big bad wolf is us. And the little pigs have been caught outdoors. Heroin always smells like something burning, said Nurse Riley. Like used funeral flowers or charbroiled bodies in a car crash. You can never ever remove the smell from your mind. It lives forever in your nostrils, in your breath and bones, and always and forever in your mind. It builds a nest there. You can stop for 1,000 years and camp out on a melting ice floe, and that smell of your life going up in a bonfire will always be there. It has always been there, even before you were you, or the people who made you you. The lack of it also smells. Like you without it. I took a big fat hit of Bad Linda's freebase and held it down in my lungs until a flock of doves escaped my mouth, said Gigi. Rome burned. The sky opened into a twisted grin and then a scowl. "I know what you're doing," I said to the sky. "I know what you're doing, and I think it's lame. When you put a torch to a rock of cocaine, you feel immediately saintly, then burned at the stake. I felt like I did that exact day when I was born and miscarried. Rapture came close and then veered off, muttering. 'Die right here,' said the floor. Smurfed all through those little rotten Jersey towns," said Spike. "Left a trail of blister packs like breadcrumbs all up and down the tri-state. Got so they could smell our snake breath 1 part per million before we opened our mouths. Couldn't buy a stick of juicy fruit. Saw the sun break and fry yellow on the turnpike. Shaved our eyebrows and body hair just in case. Drew swastikas in the air like smoke rings. Hogs ran through the room, and we sat up at the table like hogs and spoke to each other in hog language. Love filled us to bursting, and we overflowed. Love racked our bones for 72 hours and chattered us till we swallowed our teeth. They shut off the gas, and we cooked shake in Dr. Pepper bottles. It was often glorious. I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to sit here and lie. He wanted me to strangle him," said Bam Bam. "First with my small hands, and then after a while with my legs. My own 2 legs, which are strong for some reason. Strong as a runaway horse's legs." My, you are a runner," he said. "Yes," I said. "But not like you mean. Not like you mean at all." I hated him just then for speaking, for being alive and knowing me and reducing me to a thing. "Choke me good now," he hissed in this windless kind of voice through the reeds. "Choke me just right, so my dick stands up real straight and proud." I did like he said, and my legs came alive like the big white pincers of some undersea creature. I felt that thrill thing you feel as a kid climbing a pole. Like you want to come for the first time without knowing yet what coming is. I learned how to be whatever I am now from that first one. I can look at a trick's complexion and tell what to use on them. An electrical cord, the length of a mop handle, the small end of a kitty baseball bat. I know how the flesh behaves under these things. I stood on the corner and I looked down into the street and I said, "Here, take the rest of me," said Flash. "You took away my friends, all the ones before I knew you. Gone from me now like a house on fire. You took my body and played target practice with it. Look at my arms. What are they good for now but more of the same? My front teeth. You took those too. Back in that courtyard with a baseball bat. You put me on my knees and made me pray out loud till the dogs howled. I became a dog too, and I ran you day and night and marked my trail with my own piss. Spirals of moonlight followed me down. I passed in front of store windows and they gave back no reflection. My legs no longer belong to me. They belong to whoever pays. You took that too. Soon as I could scare it up. I don't work the streets anymore, said Bam Bam. I've got representation, is how I like to put it. But when I was out there, I made you work for it. You can believe that? I could divest you of your wallet, pick it clean, pretend to find it on the street, and then sell it back to you and make you feel grateful and anointed somehow. That's the gift, see? I knew a transsexual once named Pinky who could look at the little mountain range running along the underside of your house key and copy this into a duplicate from memory. I learned real fast how to memorize a credit card number after glancing at it or hearing it one time. I can watch you punch in numbers at a payphone or an ATM from across a rainy street and hold these numbers in my head till doomsday. And if things were to get ugly between us, I am not above duct taping you to a steam pipe or tossing your suit down an incinerator. Had a lot of gold in mine, said Daisy. We did the math. How much could we get for a mouthful? I took a shot right into my neck vein, close as I could get to my own mouth, like to kill me. Cheek pulled 14 with a pair of pliers. Blood all over the tablecloth like big red begonias. Teeth like Jiffy Pop flying everywhere. We went to town on them with a hammer. What you do is you bust out the fillings from around the rot. A little mound of gold piles up right in front of you. All this time you're carrying around a treasure of the Sierra. What the fuck? One got away, though. A tooth, I mean. It jumped off the table and skidded under the stove. It's still under there, I think, waiting to be melted down. Well, I believe in the tooth fairy, said Dash. It's way better that way, to believe. Things go better for you if you believe in everything and buy in completely. I believe in Santa and Easter bunnies and the big bad wolf. I seen him walking at night down the concourse. And ghosts I believe in. All around me, ghosts. People I ran with last year. Out the corners of my eyes, I see them in sheets. And gods, all kinds of gods. I keep them close the way they say you should keep your enemies close. You can't be too careful these days in that area. I had this trick once from the lanes used to bite me," said Limbo. "He couldn't stand for me to look at him. He always did everything from behind. Never went inside me. He did whatever he had to do in about 60 seconds flat. But he always had me bare my shoulders so he could sink his teeth in. He left little shark bites all up and down. See right here? I got to calling him Jaws. I heard he went away somewhere for biting on some kids. I heard he cooked his wife, too. Cooked her and ate her. I heard that, but you know, you hear a lot of things in the lanes. I never knew what a dentist was until I was about 19, said Promise. I grew up with one skinny little pink toothbrush with one of those little rubber tits on the other end. It sat right there on the sink in a Smucker's Goober grape jar. Remember those? With the swirls of grape jelly all through the peanut butter. I used that brush until the bristles were all mashed down like grass. Mister used to pay me, though. Pay me for all kinds of little things. $1 for every tooth. $1 under my pillow. We had this game called the guessing game, where he'd creep up under the white bedspread like a sea monster, you know, and speak to me in different voices and do things while I tried to guess whose voice belonged to whatever thing he was doing. Rain beat on the trailer sometimes, like somebody out there was throwing gravel. I split myself into about 20 different people to win that game. My dollar bills piled up. Mister played that same Black Sabbath record all through those 100 years. I remember the purple of those letters on that album and how they matched the purple of the goober grape. And the purple around my eyes. My whole life was purple. Mister's breath always smelled like something died. He used to go like this with his finger and windshield wipe his teeth. They turned brown in his mouth like roasted marshmallows, and he'd spit one out, and then another one out in a Maxwell House coffee can. I remember that little ping sound they made. It was a dead sound.